There we go.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Is everybody sleeping? Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Okay, my name is Kareem Lakhani. I'm a faculty member here at Harvard Business School, and I'm also the co-founder and chair of the Digital Data Design Institute here at Harvard University. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome all of you to our sessions today. And this is a joint effort between our newest institute here, D-Cube Institute, and the Harvard Center for International Development. And it brings together two schools here at Harvard, ourselves at Harvard Business School, but also Harvard Kennedy School. So before we get going, and it's a habitual for HBS faculty members to start with a question. So I've got a series of questions for you, and so we can get you in the mood of interacting with the panelists and and start thinking. So how many in the last this past week, have used a generative AI tool for your work? Not for like fun. Great. Wow. Amazing. Okay. And how many of you think that these tools are going to dramatically I guess there's a self-selection bias because oh shoot, I forgot my basic social science quantitative analysis thing. Okay, and then how many of you think that this will dramatically shift the landscape of the work that happens in public policy and in government in the next 18 months? Okay, great. And how many of you think that the leaders in those organizations, leading those organizations in government, in public policy, in NGOs, even in business that interact in this ecosystem, are actually ready for it? Okay, so this is a dramatic, you guys all use it, you think it's gonna have a big impact in 18 months, and you don't think the leaders are ready for this. This is a big gap. And this is part of the gap that we're seeing also at the D-Cube Institute when we work with businesses, when we think about the deployment of AI inside of organizations, is that everybody talks a lot about AI,
Yes.
right? And they'll have like meetings about AI and strategy meetings and policy meetings and IP meetings and blah, blah, blah. But none of those people actually use AI. And so it's like kind of like people talking about the internet, but they don't know how to browse the web. Like it kind of seems kind of funny, but that was the case 30 years ago. So I think part of what we want to do here is to sort of remove the knowing doing gap. There's a massive knowing doing gap. Like, oh, this is important, it's going to happen, but how do we actually do it, and how do we actually move it into our practice is a big question. And that's part of our mission at D-Cubed. And when Asim suggested that we collaborate together on this conference, for the GEM conference, and really think about how AI can actually drive inclusive change, we were all in as an institute and as a fellow faculty members here at Harvard University. So again, welcome. It's going to be a great day. We're going to get you hands-on doing work also with AI for some policy questions later on. And so now I'm just very delighted to introduce our Dean, Jeremy Weinstein, the Dean of the Faculty at Harvard Kennedy School. Jeremy has probably the second most difficult job at Harvard University right now. We're in, like a bit in the news, apparently. I was in Japan last week, all week, and people were saying, "Oh, Harvard." I'm like, what? Something's happening? Anyway, so I'm not going to get into that. But like as dean, they're facing very difficult questions, both from faculty and students and alums and stakeholders. It's a job that I thank you for doing, Jeremy, because I would never want to do it. But we need leaders who are thoughtful and are compassionate and can actually lead us through these very difficult times. And while we have, I always remind people that Harvard predates the constitutional republic of the United States. So apparently, like maybe our lawyers have more precedence than the U.S. government lawyers. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But the point is that Jeremy himself is an eminent scholar. One of the things we do often when we check out other scholars is we go to Google Scholar and say, well, has he published well, and what's the citation count? He's done really well. So Jeremy is an eminent scholar, really focused in on how technology and policy interact. But he's also, to my taste, also an empiricist. And actually gets to the facts, and not just theorizing, but getting to the facts. And he ran a very successful lab at Stanford University, obviously the Harvard Impact Lab, no, the Stanford Impact Labs, to really sort of think about how policy and economics interact, and again, being very empirical about that. We're very fortunate to have him here at Harvard and leading the Kennedy School, and through these times, but especially now, forget all the heat and noise today and what's happening. We've been around for several hundred years. We hope to be around for the next several hundred years. We're going to make sure that happens. But really, one of the biggest issues we're seeing today in the world is about technology and how technology impacts all of us, especially AI as a technology that can be, on the one hand, massively empowering for everybody. At the same time, could also lead to massive inequality as well if not done properly. And I think the message I want to give all of you is that all of us, each of us, have a hand in steering the direction and the rate of change that these technologies take under, and that we should not sit there as bystanders sort of seeing this all unfold, but we should be activists in our work to make sure that these technologies deliver what we think that they should be delivering for our countries and for our people along the way. So with that, and no further ado, please welcome Jeremy Weinstein, the Dean of the Kennedy School.
Thanks so much for having me. And I was thinking as I was being introduced and looking at the slide on the screen that was what I looked like before I became dean. It's obviously been a trying few weeks for the university, but also an important few weeks for the university as we make clear what it is to be a university in the United States, what it means to stand for our constitutionally protected rights, for academic freedom, for autonomy from government overreach and intrusion. And it's a special pleasure today to be able to set aside some of the politics that I'm navigating every day and share some reflections with you on the substance of the work that you're going to do today. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to GEM 25. GEM, now 16 years strong, represents the very best kind of work we do here at Harvard, convening experts from around the world to tackle some of the toughest public problems. Even in our hyper-connected world, there's something particularly powerful about coming together on a university campus and engaging with one another face-to-face, especially when the group that we've assembled today hails from dozens of countries and every facet of academia, industry, and civil society. Meetings like this enable us to break out of disciplinary silos and to challenge our own preconceptions. That kind of exposure to new ways of thinking and doing is critical. When we engage with others who see the world through a different lens, we broaden our view of the problem and identify promising tools that we should integrate both into research and practice. The challenges of this moment demand bold and multi-sectoral solutions, and I'm confident that you will generate some great insights over the course of today's sessions. What makes GEM truly special, though, is that the work doesn't stop at the end of the conference. By being here, you're unlocking a powerful network and a set of resources that can help you take your research and engagement to the next level. I encourage you to keep tapping into Harvard and to HKS and the Center for International Development. Join our speaker series, engage with our scholarly experts, reach out about research opportunities. And if you want to continue your own research on AI and global development, please stay tuned for the next round of the center's GEM Incubation Fund, which will launch in July. For the third straight year, the fund will help support several global research projects that build on conversations you will have here at GEM. We want to catalyze new collaborations between researchers and practitioners that truly harness the power of AI for sustainable development. The Incubation Fund has been a huge success. After last year's meeting on gender justice in development, it helped fund 6 projects, including work to address obstetric violence in Mexico and interventions to empower female police in India. And as we navigate now an environment of diminished support for sponsored research, both because of the dismantling of international development institutions and threats to broader scientific funding, these resources matter now more than ever. So on to the topic of the day. GEM's focus this year on catalyzing AI for inclusive change could not come at a better time. After witnessing the rapid development of artificial intelligence over the past 3 years, from ChatGPT now to deep research, there is increasing recognition that we are headed toward a paradigm shift. AI challenges many of our basic assumptions about how to deliver education, about how to provide healthcare, about how to catalyze economic growth. It has profound capacity for both speed and scale. Just like the industrial revolutions that came before it, the AI revolution will supercharge our productivity and exponentially increase our impact. But as we've learned from prior periods of technological change, AI will also confront us with difficult questions about how to properly harness its power and potential. Because speed and scale are value neutral. Depending on the choices we make, AI may usher in a new period of unprecedented economic growth, improving outcomes in every country. But if we go in a different direction, AI can become a major driver of inequality, rapidly increasing the gap between the global rich and poor, both across and within countries. This year's GEM will explore the decisions we will confront as policymakers, academics, and industry leaders that will determine the path that AI ultimately takes. Now, when I was serving as deputy to the US ambassador to the United Nations almost exactly a decade ago, long before any of us conceived of large language models or knew what a convolutional neural net was, the United Nations launched its Sustainable Development Goals, which gave an architecture to our aspirations as a collective community for global peace and prosperity. At the time, we knew that technology would be critical to achieving these goals, but we didn't and couldn't conceive of the transformative technologies that are now available to us. Already, we are witnessing in use cases around the world how AI can help to accelerate our progress on each of the SDGs. Take SDG number 4, quality education. I recently learned of a pilot project in Nigeria's Edo State, where students who engaged in 6 weeks of after-school tutoring with GPT-4 made the equivalent of 2 years of academic progress. And unlike so many educational interventions which tend to benefit the highest achievers, students at all achievement levels saw gains. As one student put it, AI helps us to learn. It can serve as a tutor. It can be anything you want it to be, depending on the prompt that you write. Gone are the days of searching aimlessly in a textbook for an answer to a question, or struggling to even find a textbook. UNESCO estimates that the world will need 44 million more teachers by 2030, including 15 million in sub-Saharan Africa alone. AI can produce billions of tutors, attuned to the specific needs and learning styles of each and every child, and help us tackle this teacher shortage. Just imagine the learning gains that we can achieve by deploying such tutors in every school for 6 weeks, let alone an entire school year. The same is true with respect to SDG 3, good health and well-being. In 2019, the New York Times reported on the Aravind Eye Hospital in India, which used AI to screen 2,000 people a day for potential diabetic retinopathy. It made a world of difference, considering that India is a country with only 11 eye doctors per million people. Since then, AI interventions in healthcare have exploded across South Asia. AI has helped transform rehabilitation methods for patients with dementia in Singapore. By the end of this year, clinics across India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam will have conducted over 1.5 million AI-assisted chest X-rays, which can detect lung cancer markers in under a minute and help diagnose tuberculosis. Because of these improved diagnostic and treatment methods, Singapore's National Health Technology Agency estimates that AI could reduce the workload of medical professionals by up to 50%. Imagine this at scale. Millions more patients could see the doctor, get results more quickly, and pay less for care. Such interventions could add millions, if not billions, of years to total global life expectancy. And finally, we can look to Latin America to see rapid progress on SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. Calimo, an AI-powered water startup, synthesizes meteorological and satellite data to map a farmer's field, identifying the crops that are most in need of water and any geographical hazards that need to be navigated around. The software then turns this map into specific recommendations for that farmer, helping to make irrigation more effective and precise. Working with farmers from Peru, Chile, Guatemala, and more, Calimo has helped save 19 billion gallons of water in the past 2 years alone. That could fill 28.5 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. By 2030, freshwater demand will exceed supply by 40%. And one of the biggest drivers of that demand is agriculture. By improving irrigation, we can reduce and potentially resolve this shortage. But even in the face of so much promising change, we must maintain a sense of sobriety and pragmatism. Because so-called AI for good interventions can reinforce disparities. I was struck by a recent blog post from Han Shangxia of the Center for Global Development, who I believe is speaking to you later today. In his blog, he referenced an intervention in Kenya where entrepreneurs interacted with an AI-powered business coach. Thriving entrepreneurs saw a 15% increase in profits, while struggling entrepreneurs performed 10% worse. If we don't do our due diligence before deploying an intervention like AI-powered business coaches, we could only worsen the dynamics of winners and losers. That's at a micro level. What about at scale? All of this rapid transformation means we are staring down major economic and social dislocation. Goldman Sachs estimates that artificial intelligence could affect 300 million jobs around the globe, more than twice the number of jobs that we lost in the year following the COVID-19 pandemic. Even as new jobs are created, what will we do to sustain those experiencing job loss and retrain them for different occupations? I also have concerns about fairness. Think of the Dutch social benefits scandal from 2022, where algorithms flagged foreign-sounding names and dual nationality as potential indicators of fraud. Because of those two parameters in a model, thousands of families lost their benefits and experienced financial hardship. And even more disturbingly, 1,000 children were separated from their families based on the wrongful allegation that their parents were committing fraud. How many lives could be impacted if hospitals inadvertently outsource diagnostics to a screening system that discriminates on the basis of people's identities? And finally, AI has the potential to further exacerbate challenges to the effective functioning of our democratic institutions, including around the information that we consume. AI's advanced image and video generation capabilities are a lot of fun, but they can also be leveraged to produce convincing deepfakes. Disruptive actors can flood the zone with optimized stories and improve the precision of their phishing attacks with more compelling social engineering techniques. In the wrong hands, AI can be an effective catalyst for inflaming partisan hostilities and deepening sectarian divides, neither of which will help in advancing peace and prosperity. So how do we move forward? First, if you care about social good, you need to think not only about the positive use cases for AI in global development. You also need to take seriously the social and economic consequences of AI, regardless of the particular problem you're trying to solve or who you're working for. Before implementing AI in a critical sector, the very decision makers who are in this room must engage in robust, inclusive, and proactive deliberation about the unintended consequences of the technologies that we deploy. We need technologists who are committed not only to building, but also for searching for biases embedded in their systems. We need advocates and researchers who will illuminate the unseen consequences of the technologies manifest in the world. And we need policymakers who will be pragmatic about the problems that AI can and cannot solve. And we need you speaking to one another, holding yourselves accountable and co-creating solutions. I hearken back to the word catalyst, which is central to GEM's framing of this year's conference. A catalyst only works under a set of specific conditions. If we do not ensure that the right social conditions are in place, such as robust workforce training to combat labor displacement, AI will ultimately do more harm than good. Second, if you want to harness AI to tackle a social problem, you need to resist the temptation to lead with the solution. We need evidence-based decision-making rather than decision-based evidence-making. Part of this is cultural. Silicon Valley, where I lived for over 30 years, is governed by a set of techno-optimists. There is a belief in the companies in Silicon Valley that technology is the be-all, end-all for a problem, before such a belief can be confirmed by any evidence. In the development space, we need to take the problems on a case-by-case basis before deferring to AI as the path forward. I often reference the work of Kentaro Toyama, a former Microsoft employee and University of Michigan professor who wrote a book called Geek Heresy, which I used to hand out to my undergraduates at Stanford. In his words, quote, "I was a computer scientist, a Microsoft employee, and the head of a group that aimed to find digital solutions for the developing world. I wanted nothing more than to see innovation triumph. But exactly where the need was greatest, technology seemed unable to make a difference. We need to accept that in some cases, after following the evidence and studying the systemic factors driving a problem, AI might not be the solution. By leveraging AI judiciously and pragmatically, we will reduce the risk of harm and arrive at more meaningful solutions for the truly difficult problems that you all grapple with day in and day out. And finally, I'd be remiss as someone who's been a policymaker and as the dean of a policy school if I didn't say that we need a regulatory framework to govern our actions in this space. Last month, I watched closely as the Digital Cooperation Organization, a 16-country organization primarily comprised of nations in the Global South, expressed their desire for harmonized tech regulations. Instead of speaking about fairness in the abstract or reacting to bias after it has already surfaced, let's start building non-discrimination guidelines for these technologies now. Let's explore global data privacy standards and think about the architecture that enables cross-border data flows. AI will bring so much to our world in the coming years, at the same time that it will raise some of the hardest value trade-offs for public policy. We'd be best served by thinking about those trade-offs now and working together toward a regulatory framework to address what are fundamentally political rather than technological challenges. Thank you so much for coming to Harvard for GEM. We look forward to learning from your expertise and continuing the conversation. So much.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I wanted to start by just thanking Jeremy, the fact that he was able to make time from a... Jeremy, I didn't mean to stop you on your way out. You have no idea how incredibly busy he is, and I'm really grateful for Jeremy to be here with us, but also for his leadership at probably what is one of the toughest times in our history as a university. Jeremy, thank you for everything you're doing. I really appreciate it. My name is Asim Khwaja. I am the faculty director of the Harvard Center for International Development. Together with Kareem, we have put on what we think will be a fun day for you all, but most importantly, a productive day for you all. I keep thinking what the analogy for AI is. Is it flood? Is it rain? Is it earthquake? Is it... I don't quite know what it is, but what I do know is it is all-encompassing. It is very clear that each and every one of us, whether we are selected, Kareem, in the way you were saying, or even if we are not selected, have heard this word. You could be in the remotest village, in the remotest place, and someone or the other would have said some word called AI. Some of our leaders in the US may be confused about what AI means, but it is here to stay. And in many ways, I think the question for us, and that's going to be the discussion we have today, is change AI for some lofty thing which seems like it needs costly GPUs to run, this thing that is distant from us, to something which is really proximate to us, to something which, in the best of ways, becomes a companion for you, in the best of ways, becomes something which can take the innate talent that each and every one of us has, allow us to both recognize that talent, but then deploy that talent. And that's, in the best of ways, what AI could be, right? That is AI as a nourishing rain, which allows us to flourish. There's also the other side that Kareem and Jeremy mentioned as well, which is AI as something which divides and tears us up, right? AI is something which some people have and others don't have. AI is something which some people understand and others don't. AI is something that some people use and others simply can't. AI is something that some people create and others are incapable of even imagining that they could do to influence its path. And I think that, many times I'm in conversations and I feel like AI is not something which is done to us, right? AI is something which we can reshape in the way we want it to be. But for that to happen, we need people in this room and in the world to step up and ask what it is, tell us what they want, and put the resources, whether that be time or money or political will, whatever those resources, or leadership, to say this is something that needs to happen. Kareem was asking the question of how much do we use AI. I will confess, my use of AI is all for fun. And Kareem has said that's not good. You have to bring it to work, and I will. But it's a step. I use it if I'm feeling low on a certain day. I'll be like, recommend a book that I can read, which has this element to it, which I will enjoy and will make me feel this way. And AI will give you like 60 recommendations. So for me, if we can internalize very much AI into everything we do, right, and use it in the way we want, that could really be magical. And I'm very optimistic about this. I want to be in a world where 50 years from now, we look at these moments. You look at this conference maybe, and you say, that's a moment where it really resonated with me. It really struck me that, wow, this could be really cool. It's not some thing which is out there, but it's really a useful tool that I can deploy to make myself be more impactful in the world. Now, again, there's a question of what do you mean by impact for us at CID, and Kareem actually shares this as well. Impact is building a thriving world for all. Impact is allowing people to recognize their potential. So with that in mind, I have just 3 more things to say and 2 requests of you. I have notes, but I'm terrible at reading them. I'll try my best. First is just the intent of what we're trying to do. And this is how we've structured the day, so I want you to recognize this. So we have panels. We have an interactive session that Kareem and his team are leading. And we have incubation rooms at the end. Each of these structures are deliberately there, and I want to explain. Sometimes people are like, well, I won't tell you why I'm doing something. I'm never that kind of teacher. I want to tell you why we're doing what we're doing so that we understand and appreciate what this is about. The panels are critical because the panels bring leading thinkers in these spaces, but also, frankly, signpost interesting people for you all to talk to. So please do that. You'll hear them, you'll hear what they're about, but there's so much more they're about than what they can say to you in a few minutes. So this is just signposting really fascinating people that we have curated for you. Okay? And the panels have the flavor of giving agency to us in development. These panels will basically tell us both how we can be shaping AI as consumers of AI, but shaping AI as producers of AI as well. That's the sense of the panels. We want you to experience AI. You can't leave this room not having fully indulged yourself in AI, so we'll do a fun exercise where you get to use AI. That will be the interactive part. Lunch is also, for us, an interactive part. Get to talk to each other. Find someone you haven't found before and talk to them. The third is the incubation rooms, and this is a really important construct for us. Many of us go to conferences. I'm glad you're here. Most of us don't like conferences, at least I don't. And I'll tell you why, because they don't lead to something. We don't want this to be that. We want you to walk away from this conference having gained something which you can take back and grow. The incubation idea is precisely that, which is in the afternoon. I encourage you to pick a session which really excites you, and don't feel like you need to know much about that topic. You just have to be excited about it. You have to be interested in it. This is not a test of your domain knowledge. This is simply a test of your passions. Pick a session. In the session, we have people leading interesting problems, and we're going to brainstorm about how to use AI to address those problems. And we want these problems, we want to put our money where our mouth is. So the ideas which emerge from your incubation sessions, ideally done with people you haven't met before, but you're excited to meet and are excited to continue collaborating with. You will apply for funding. It'll be in September 5th as a deadline. And we will then give seed funding for a bunch of those ideas which emerge from these events. And as we progress in these ideas, you will see, we've already done this twice. We're beginning to see the results of this seeding act, right? And if we create this community, then each time when you come with this idea that I'm going to come here, learn something, create a collaboration, and create something. We have a chatbot. Use it. It's been developed by one of our leading faculty. It's actually a really fun bot to use. We had several people mentioning to me that they've started using it and how useful it's been. Use it to literally ask questions which you're thinking in your mind, but you're feeling, I don't know whether I should ask this question, which is, who is an interesting person I should talk to today? That bot has a lot of your bios in it. This is what I'm worried about. You're like, oh shit, I didn't sign up for that. Yes, you did. When you registered. Which session should I go to? Here's a skill I'd like to learn. Here's something interesting I'd like to meet. If we are talking about technology and how it's useful, we have to deploy that in our own sessions. So that's the second thing. The last two requests. Actually, I should thank a few people. I forgot that. Notes are important. The incubation rooms and the funds that we have created are supported by the Weatherhead Center and the Women in Public Policy program at the Kennedy School. So these are contributors to our fund, and we wanted to acknowledge them. I should also thank, before I give my last words, to the scientific committee for this event. That is Rem Koning, Teddy Svernos, Chiara Fernato, Fatma Sumar, Kartik Srivastava, Stefan Esposito, and Linda has been super helpful. Almeida, if you see her somewhere, I don't know where she is, Linda. She has been helping the entire event. Is she here? Linda, can you wave? You can give a round of applause to Linda for... I always like thanking people in the beginning of the event and the end, because when you thank someone in the beginning, you display to them how extremely confident you are in their abilities to run a phenomenal show. So I am extremely confident in our team. And I want to thank all the panelists and incubation room facilitators. But most of all, I wanted to thank all of you, because we want you to not just be passive listeners. As you'll see over the course of the day, you will be active participants. Particularly in the incubation sessions, you could leave creating an idea with someone that you hadn't met before, which gets seed funding, which the next thing you know becomes a big thing. So my two requests are, unsurprisingly, collaborate and reach out. Maybe a small target is, by the end of the day, have at least 5 people. It's a big number. 6 degrees of separation, 5 is fine. Who you have not met before, who you've met, and not just as a, do you mind passing the donut meeting? But more like, who are you, what do you do, this is what I do, love to talk more. And perhaps you can exchange some context, so at least 5. And then the last thing I would leave you at is, this is a moment in development, in the world, in academia, to reimagine what we can do. What I think is spectacular about AI is it can allow us to reimagine a world in a completely different way. Reimagine a sector you care about. So bring that sense of childhood reimagination or curiosity. Don't let constraints hold you up. When you first brainstorm in these incubation sessions, come up with something ridiculously ambitious. It's fine. Let's start with this incredible reimagination of the world that we can be in. And perhaps we don't fully reach that dream, But unless we start with those kind of lofty dreams, we won't end up in a place that I think we'll be proud of 50 years down the line. So collaborate and reimagine. And with that, I think we're going to move directly to the first panel. Thank you. Can we call the panel one, everyone, you know who you are?
Great. Sure, come on. Ninja just wants out.
Al, you want to switch?
Okay. Thank you. Sure. I think we're waiting just for our last panelist, who stepped out for a little bit. Nanjira?
Green, I presume. But I'm colorblind, so you have to help me. Is this green?
Yes, it's green.
Yeah, green.
Probably start.
We should start? Yeah. Super.